And so somehow he saw my Unaware video, and he got invited to perform at Fia's uh, virtual reality show. And so he got to invite some guest artists, and he invited me to be one of the guest artists.
Oh, wow.
So there's a bunch of crazy talented people, like a country singer, Camp Leroy, my friend Tone that I met there at the concert, and Naku knocked it out of the park. It was a big night.
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion. Oop.
I'm Starheart.
I'm old man Raptor. Hold on just a second. Wow, she's jumping the gun before I can even introduce her. I'm old man Raptor, and our guest is...
Sorry.
I'm Starheart. Sorry.
Don't be so...
It's great.
Well, to be fair,
No,
I kind of jumbled the camera placement, so it's kind of my fault. Because I placed it on Starheart and you started, then I put it to you because you were speaking. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
So we just go again?
Make up my mind. I'm confused. You
Since we're at the beginning.
Oh, it's all good. It's kind of half the fun sometimes. We generally don't really edit or fix things. We generally kind of have the conversation via however it is. It's half the fun of it. Sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes it's calm. So, what is it you do here in VR and in real life? Well, if they're tied together.
Yeah, I mean, kind of loosely. So I perform music, I sing and write songs, and perform here in virtual reality. And so I debuted this persona, I guess, back earlier this year. I forget the exact date. It was March, I think. But I've actually been in VR like a whole year before that.
Oh, wow.
Playing for people in public lobbies. And my first music video was almost exactly a year ago on Halloween.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Well, congrats.
So
wow.
What brought you here to VR, and what made you want to start this whole artist career here in virtual reality?
So, I used to perform in bands and stuff. Gosh, where do I even start? I've always loved the intersection of video games and music. So IRL, I compose music for video games and like freelance and a lot of indie games, and I've done like a couple small VR projects. And so I was aware of VR. I didn't own any VR stuff, but the first time I ever tried VR was back in 2015 when a friend got the Oculus DK2. And so that VR blew my mind, and then I kind of just forgot about it all throughout college. Not forgot, but just like, I don't really like it felt like it would eventually be really cool. But I couldn't justify buying the PC and the headset and setting it all up, and well, it was like something I was excited about kind of more nebulously. But anyway, so I'm at music school. I'm really, really excited about indie games and just like really weird interactive art and stuff, and really influenced by people like Rich Vreeland's Disaster Piece, who worked on Fez and Hyperlight Drifter, and that kind of like taking some of like the nostalgic sounds from chip tunes and that type of thing, but you know, putting into this very modern production context. So that's that sort of stuff, like merging like orchestral elements and retro sounds. That's totally my bread and butter when it comes to making music outside of this thing. But then so pandemic hit, and I got back into anime, and so I was just watching like way too much anime. And somehow, you know, YouTube suggests clips or whatever. Somehow YouTube had suggested some VTubers and some Vocaloid videos, and my understanding of like Vocaloid up until that point was basically like, you know, World Is Mine with Hatsune Miku. And I didn't really understand what went into it, but now, like, I was watching this and seeing like, oh, you can, like, anyone can just take her as a virtual instrument, and like anyone can I had just assumed there's like 10 people that were involved in creating all of Hatsune Miku, like for the stage, like motion capture and her like her songs, and but I didn't realize it was like thousands of musicians had created her and like all the other Vocaloids music. So that blew my mind, discovering that and just loving, being exposed to a lot more Japanese music, and like it's all these like gorgeous jazz chord progressions, merged with like really like bright, fun synths, and of course, I don't speak Japanese, so like looking up lyrics, not really understanding the lyrics themselves, but just being so drawn in by the melodies and the production. So anyway, finally, after all that, just going down that rabbit hole of discovering anime music and Vocaloid, and just kind of longing to perform again, but feeling so disconnected from some of my old music that I did before, and
Not, I hadn't performed in real life for 5 years.
Oh wow.
and since I had been really focused on composing, but also I just felt like I wasn't really myself, I guess. Like I didn't like I liked performing, but I much preferred making the song because I didn't really like what I felt like were the limitations of being myself on stage. It's kind of hard to describe, but yeah, anyway, personal issues aside, once I found Vocaloid, I'm like, oh, maybe I could actually just do that. But then I discovered VR, and when I saw Fia's video about like clubs, like that people were dancing in like full motion capture, together and listening to music, and I'm like, oh, I thought we were 10 years away from this. This is happening now. So I binged every single video on YouTube that I could find about, this world. It was like beginning of 2022. And I saw some of Straz's videos like about gender, and I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Because anyway, that's another subject. But anyway, so I became completely obsessed with them. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Especially because earlier that year, Belle had come out, the same director as Summer Wars, one of my favorite movies that my friend introduced me to. And again, I'm a massive anime fan. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's this like virtual world that people are just like hanging out and like with anime avatars, and maybe I could actually find people to talk with about anime with. And Belle was about this girl who just like regains her voice, her ability to sing, because she finds VR and she has this persona that lets her sing again, and her friend like does the visuals and she does the songwriting and the production, and they she becomes the star in the movie. And of course it's very different than VRChat in many ways, but it's to think that that's like a possible future, that virtual stars will be not these corporate manufactured things that we're seeing, some of these companies trying to force on us. It's like, clearly it's, it's so weird. Like, we want to see like what's great about a band is their backstory of like, they all met in high school, or they played together in their garage, or this young producer got a laptop and plugged in some crappy speakers and produced the most incredible EDM, and like all these stories of like music has to start somewhere authentic for, I think, people to really care about it.
Hmm.
So that the ability to like not only is it possible to do, it's possible to do for not like you don't need James Cameron's budget to do motion capture anymore. Vive trackers let you get legs and all this stuff. And now some people are having face tracking with like the Quest Pro or Vive tracker. So like the technology part of it was also super exciting, and seeing like, wait, like some of these Vocaloid videos where the live performances, they have the motion capture, but they're hand animating the face, or maybe they have facial motion capture. It's kind of hard to find videos on how they put those together. I assume maybe some of both, depending on how they do it. But anyway, so like there's this song that just I broke down crying the first time I saw, and it's this video from, I hope I get the year right, it's either 2013 or 2014, Magical Mirai. It's Megarina Luca singing the song Leia by Yuyupe. I think that's how you pronounce the name. And a lot of the songs have a lot of choreography and big, like very impressive dance, but this was like her just playing the guitar up on stage, and the amount of emotion they got in her face, just her like this anguish, because the song is about this artist falling in love with this girl he paints, but realizing she's not real, and it's very sad. It's a very dark story, but oh my god, it's like that I connected with this virtual character that was sort of like a live perform. It is live, like there's real musicians playing behind her, and it's kind of like animation but for singing, right? Because like someone programmed her to sing, or you programmed her to sing in this really beautiful way, and it was magic. Like I'm like, I wish I could do that. And I couldn't describe why I connected so much more with that than some of the like artists that a lot of people were inspired by for performing and stuff. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling a bit.
Don't apologize
so
for
I
rambling
started.
If you want to ramble and speak about what makes you happy and how you got where you are, please do so. Be yourself. Don't worry about it. We're in no rush. If you wish to talk and ramble about whatever, you're more than welcome to. It's not a problem at all.
Well, I guess we can expand on different things, but I'll wrap up a little bit.
Oh.
Finding VR and seeing that it was all possible now changed. I say this like it sounds dramatic, but it changed my whole trajectory. I'm like, oh no. So I bought a PC, and then like 2 weeks later I bought full body tracking because I'm like, I need that. And or once the headset arrived, I think it's a couple weeks after that, and I was completely just immersed and spending way too much time here and just like living. I wasn't even like trying to perform. Like I'd play piano for some people, but I wasn't at the start. It was just so overwhelming, like visiting new worlds and meeting like super random people and geeking out about slice of life anime, or watching movies together, like having movie nights, or like people drink on a Wednesday, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Where like no one has to pay for Ubers, right? You don't have to worry about someone being nasty to you at a club. Like you get overwhelmed, you get overstimulated, you log off. And there's not a lot of pressure. You could just message your friends on Discord, sorry, I'm tired or whatever. Like it fit my personality so well. And I loved it here. And yeah. So that's how I got into it.
Okay. That sounds like a really amazing story. And how did you get in? tell us about the start of your music career here. Like, where'd you get started, and who helped you along?
Wow. So there's a couple stages, I guess. I had been performing with just like random avatars here, and it was fun, but I didn't really have a persona. And I think even though it's really cool, like one of the nice things about VRChat is that you can change who you are all the time depending on your mood or depending on that type of thing. There also is like a point where having something recognizable to connect you yourself to who you are, or your music to who you are. It's nice to have like a consistent personality, or not even personality, a consistent appearance in some way. Like VTubers will change their outfits or even designs. Like Iron Mouse changes her model all the time, but she still has like recognizable. She has her horns and her hair color and things like that. So I'm like, I need to, like, this is such a cool opportunity to like create this from scratch. How do I choose who I am? And so that's almost the whole story in itself, where
Let's hear about it.
coming out as trans through kind of discovering who I am here, and kind of realizing that was one of the big factors that stopped me from performing in real life. Is that I didn't like. There was a disconnect from the music that I wanted to do and how I wanted people to perceive me, and how people actually saw me. But here, I could choose how people saw me. And at first, I thought I was just like, oh, I like Hatsune Miku, so I wore a Hatsune Miku avatar. And then this is like week 2 or something. My friend Link, he's like, super drunk. He's like, "What are you?" I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "What? What are you?" And then my friend helped clarify for him. She's like, "Oh, like, what do you identify as?" I'm like, "Oh, I've never been asked that before." And I said, "I guess he, him." But that night, it did not sit with me well at all. I'm like, why does that feel wrong? Why does that feel like really wrong? I'm like, is that all it took that that someone asks what my pronouns are and suddenly my life is falling apart? It took months for me to work out my feelings and therapists and blah 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 blah. But I have VR to thank for even giving me that option to explore that, because I would have never had the courage to even try nail polish. And it wasn't even that I'm particularly overly concerned about. I think that's a lie. I think I'm pretty concerned about what people think of me, and I try not to be. But a lot of people are, I suppose. You want people to like you, and you want people to, like, everyone wants to fit in and that type of thing. So this was a great excuse. I didn't know anybody, or like no one knew me from before. No one knew me from IRL. And I've kept my life separate on purpose, just to like have that freedom to see who I am without all that baggage. You know, if no one's looking at you, who are you? Kind of a thing. If you close your eyes, who do you really want to be? So that brings us to finding my artists who designed my profile picture. I don't know if you have name tags on, but she's this. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. That illustration turned out so well. So this artist's name is M. I found her on Twitter, and and she helped me character design. So I put together a whole reference sheet with like, oh, these like Oni horns would be really cool, and maybe some like other fantastical elements. So she suggested a tail or the elf ears, and I kind of had just like ideas. Like I wanted to be this optimistic, astral demon person, but I didn't know any further than that. I wanted like, yeah, I just like cute, like definitely inspired by some of the Vocaloid designs, and she had done some really cool Vocaloid art, and just so I knew that she would be aware of what I was trying to do. Like some artists would be like, "Well, I don't really get what you're doing," but like she gets VTubers, like she understands the scene, and I didn't really want to be a 2D VTuber. I saw 3D as being so much more exciting, because here we're in this other world, right? We can walk around, we can talk to each other like face to face, which is so cool. Versus like 2D, you're kind of at your computer desk, and you have a camera or phone tracking your facial movements, and so if you're talking to someone else, you're not really talking to them. So that is really cool in different ways, and it's a much more casual way to like, you can stream for many hours. Like I think streaming with the headset is probably more tiring on average. Of course, you get people like Fillion who stream in VR, or TFM Johnny, who are like very I don't even know how they have the energy to go and go and go and go, but yeah. Anyway, rambling. So, designed Starheart. I finally picked the name a few months later from a D&D character, actually, that I had made before. I'm like, oh, that actually works too well.
May I ask what your class was for the character?
Yeah, I was a changeling. Oh no, that's the race. What was my class? It's been a while since I've looked at that character sheet. I think no, I wasn't a paladin. Was I a ranger? I don't know.
It's all good. Sorry for asking.
No. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Don't apologize. It's okay. It's a really weird question. So he said D&D. I was like, I like D&D.
D&D's great. I love D&D for like the escapist and the story and like the role-playing aspects, but I'm so bad at the rules. It's like
I'm so bad at the rules. My God.
No,
No chewing gum during the roll. God damn it! Stop your shit. No chewing gum. They didn't have gum back there. I'm just giving you help. Giving you help.
Yeah. Some DMs are like, "You're not allowed to have anything modern. You're not." Yeah, it depends on how your game is run. Yeah, that's where I got the name. And so, well, leading up to that, I had a few things to check off. Right, there's first the design and the character sheet. So then I needed the 3D model, and I had all these like original songs that I had ready to go. And this was back like over a year ago. I was like, okay, like this is all lining up, and I did all these like I got out my notation software again for I don't usually get the opportunity to record live musicians, but for Elsewhere, my first song as Starheart, I did string arrangements, and we recorded 4 live string players, and then we recorded a bunch of times so we could layer them all together, make it sound bigger from different takes. So we had that, and then for a couple other songs that we recorded at the same time, I got drummer and bass player and guitar. And got my old roommate to play this really great funky guitar on this next track. and horn section, and I was going all out because I'm like this. First of all, I just need to see this like to its full potential. I don't like no one. I'm not doing this for anyone else but me. No one even knows in my real life that I'm working on all this stuff. But I just want to make it the best I could possibly make it. And so I slowed down on the freelance like game stuff and took up like a day job doing like corporate video editing and stuff. And just so I would have like work from home and money for VR equipment and all that stuff, and but actually time, free time to work on fun things like this. And it was too much to balance to try to keep up the freelance at the same time, which was really bittersweet, because it's what I was working towards for years. Like I had that dream in high school to compose music for games. When I saw the Double Fine documentaries about Double Fine Adventure and their Amnesia Fortnights, and just like seeing game development was so exciting, and participating in game jams and all this stuff. It just like, yeah. And then now I'm here, I'm like, okay, this is what I really like. This is the end, because I get to combine not just composing stuff, but I get to sing, and then I get real-time feedback. Like if someone's listening to a song I'm performing, like I don't have to wait 3 years for the game to come out or whatever for people to write on like, oh, that was cool or whatever. You get to know instantly if people are into it or not, and that's awesome. Like, oh, is this song good or not? Like, are people bopping along, or people like after the performance, did people enjoy it, or how did I feel? And it's a lot of pressure, 'cause especially not having performed for so long, I was really kind of rusty. So that it was nice to have all that time with no expectations, no one even knowing who I am, to just practice, get good at playing piano in VR, put the controllers on my wrists so I have my more, freedom with my hands, figuring out the microphone, the monitoring, so I could hear myself with reverb and the compression and all that routed into VRChat, and then later into VRCDN, which a lot of DJs use for low latency streaming and all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of technical hurdles to performing music in VR. And I hope one day it's just as simple as put on headset, join your friends, pick up, and the pass-through will just only show you your instruments, and like you can just set down your controllers when you're not playing like a game or moving around or whatever, and then it'll switch to hand tracking, like Quests kind of already has that type of thing, but having that more fluid with the pass-through and better face tracking. Right now, I'm moving my eyes with just my controller here to, to try to give a little bit more of what I'm trying to convey. I've just gotten so used to that it's second nature. But it'd be nice for my facial expressions IRL to come through and not even have to worry about that, especially if I'm busy playing piano. What I saw from that facial animation all the way back in a decade ago that was taking place on these holograms, like getting that here in real time in VR would be so cool. Some people are doing it. I'm waiting to upgrade headset because my checklist is pass through, face tracking, but also like I kind of still look through the nose hole to see my hands in the keyboard if I get lost. I'm like, oh yeah.
May I ask what headset you have? Just quick curiosity.
Yeah, I have the Index.
Did you know Index has a pass-through? You have to set it up in the settings.
It does. I tried it. I tried it for the first couple weeks, and it made me so nauseous. I couldn't actually play piano
Oh.
with the pass through very well. There's all this like jumble, and the keys would go like it could not reconstruct a keyboard very well.
That's fair. It is a little weird. I I found out about it
Yeah.
maybe a year and a half into owning an Index, and I was like, it has a
Oh
what?
wow.
I had no idea. There's so many things about VR I've been
Yeah.
in so long, I had no idea. When I found, I was like, it does a what? Hold on. And I had someone walk me through hitting the settings. And I pushed a button twice. It's like, holy shit, I could see my TV from here. It was, sorry.
It's pretty cool. This is so ahead of its time.
Mm.
You know, to have incredible audio, honestly. Like, I studied audio and music, and I am never frustrated with the quality when I listen to music here in VR. Not having this pressure on your ears from headphones is beautiful. Feels very localized. Like I love all the work they put into that and a good quality microphone. Is it heavy? Yeah, I guess. Like we're gonna compare it to all the pancake lens headsets coming out and the Beyond, of course. Everyone's gonna have like get spoiled by that if they end up getting one of those. There's there you can't have everything yet, you know. You can't have light and fully featured and eye tracking and eyebrow tracking because that's important. Not just like looking, because your emotion comes mainly from your eyebrows and like your eyes too. But if you frown but your eyes look happy, um, people will know you're actually happy. Like you're just putting on a funny frown.
Mm.
But if you're frowning with your eyes and smiling, people can tell something's wrong.
Mm. Yeah, you do.
So I think
Yeah.
You do have a point. At least what it seems now with a lot of new headsets, the face tracking is coming standard. Like we were with Gopalmetro, and he was telling us about how the new Apple
Yeah.
headset will have full face tracking, like built in, which is amazing.
Yes. Super cool. If Apple actually decides to let users use it with Steam VR and connect it to that ecosystem, and like will they have VRChat on it? I would hope so, but I'm not counting on it.
Mm. Yeah, Apple tends to be a little seclusive on what they allow. But that's Apple.
Oh yes.
But it's still cool though in its
Oh.
own right. It is still cool though in its own right because it brings people who wouldn't
Oh,
normally
so
use
cool.
VR into VR. And it's such a
Yeah.
high level of quality. And if like the same way like most
Yeah.
people such as yourself get in VR, you get in, you try a little thing. Maybe for them it's the Apple headset trying out their office the first time. It's like what else is here? The next thing you know, they're in VRChat as a
Right.
banana.
The classic starter. Yep. Good old visitors. Everyone's scared of visitors because there's trolls. And they can be okay. We need to welcome new people into VR. Make new VR users experience good. I loved popping around. I need to go perform more in public worlds. It's so fun. It's a great way to meet people. Just and you don't have to impose your music. Like people can like mute you or whatever, right? But like if I stand kind of like out of the way or whatever, the world music's not too blaring, I'll just like start playing piano or whatever, and it's a very nice icebreaker.
Guitar. That's the only instrument you play is the piano?
Yeah, so I sing, I play piano, and a little guitar, mainly for songwriting. My guitar's made it onto some recordings, but I'm not very proud of my guitar abilities.
Star, would you prefer to have a situation where you, in VR, you'd have a VR piano that actually would play?
Well, I like the haptics of having a real piano.
Yeah, I got that, but what I'm getting at is if you had the ability that you had, okay, you said it's hard because you sometimes have to look down at to see what it is, but that keyboard that you'd have in front of you would be a VR keyboard. but it would interact with the real key. What I'm getting at? So what it amounts to is your hands on the keys would react and track to a regular keyboard, but in VR you could see it without have to go. Oh, there's it. Whoops,
I see what you mean.
Is what I'm
Right.
It'd be a one-to-one replica of the real one, so it would move the same as if it was in real life, but it's in VR there.
Oh, I mean, that's the ideal scenario. You wouldn't even need pass-through. If your hands match up with the virtual clone of the keyboard exactly, it would be a little bit of pain. I know, like, I do have a keyboard that I'll spawn. It doesn't line up at all. Like, it's not a proper keyboard, but it's approximately the right size, and people can watch. But again, I don't have finger tracking when I put my controllers up on my wrists. So my hands do this when I'm playing piano.
Gotcha. I got you.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Well, see, and that what I was getting at, Star, is where you had your controllers on the hand on your. What I'm getting at is your controllers would be at the top of your hands like they are, right? But the keyboard would have a tracking system at home to track your hands on the regular keyboard.
Oh.
So when you're playing it, you're actually seeing your fingers, and people would see your fingers actually playing a true piano, knowing there might be a piano. See what I'm getting at? See, that would be great, because see, then it's tracking your finger movements, knowing your controllers are up where they are, but when the piano that's in front of you would react the same way as if you were playing in VR. But in real life, you're playing the true keyboard, and where it would actually see you play and hear the sound that you're playing.
Well, that is a little unnecessary work for something that's coming out soon, because most headsets now, like Quest and Apple, have camera tracked fingers, and then there are also gloves as well coming out that you can put on, and they'll finger track everything to a finer tune point.
I think it's all gonna be cameras.
Yeah. I'll just say
Gloves are super cool for haptics.
Oh yeah, especially if they're finger tracked properly. You wouldn't need.
Oh my gosh.
You wouldn't need that. You wouldn't like if you have your hands back here, it still wouldn't matter.
Right.
Oh, my hands are gone. What are you doing? I can't tell you. I was scratching my head, but don't look like it. Looks like you're trying to pull your hair out. Nope, sorry, that's not what I was doing.
So, I have another question for you based on what you've been up to. What was your first show like in VR?
Okay, so how do we differentiate like show from like just random pop-up performance? Because I'll walk you through my two first big experiences performing for people here.
Okay.
The first one was for a music video. The first time I made a video of myself performing live, and that was for my cover of Alan Stone's Unaware. And that's one that I had been playing for people here, getting a lot of practice, and it's also relatively simple on the piano, so I didn't have to constantly be looking through the nose hole. I could really just do it by feel. And it was a live performance I invited a bunch of friends, and I wanted it to be like this like NPR Tiny Desk sort of like cozy, intimate, like just friends hanging out, listening to music. It was in the Spirits of the Sea, one of my favorite worlds. I haven't been there in a while. I used to go there a lot when I first started playing. And that was like the first time there was some purpose beyond just like, oh, it would be fun to play some music or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm making a video. I'm having people come at a certain time, and it's like a proper performance / recording, and so that was super fun. But then the first time I actually performed as Starheart, and the first time I was performing for, like, in an organized event, um, for a lot of random people. I lucked out. This guy Naku, he's one of the more well-known, if not the most well-known, performers here in VRChat. He plays and sings piano as well, and has some great originals. And he streams all the time on Twitch of himself taking requests and just playing in public lobbies. And I think he has like group lobbies that so you don't get like random people, and they can moderate it, but it's still pretty open. And so somehow he saw my unaware video, and he got invited to perform at Fia's uh, virtual reality show. And so he got to invite some guest artists, and he invited me to be one of the guest artists.
Oh wow.
So there's a bunch of crazy talented people, like a country singer, Camp Leroy, my friend Tone that I met there at the concert, and Naku knocked it out of the park. It was a big night where he had his like singing kind of like with the full visuals in the background, and he was performing to electronic music, and then they did like a whole talk show segment, and then he did some like just playing and singing on the piano, and then they went on to the guest artists. So I was like, okay, this is a jump. This is a little jump. I was definitely nervous. It had been a very long time since I had performed in that sort of environment, but I was that was a crazy few weeks. I had debuted Starheart, like announced her debut 2 weeks prior, put out Elsewhere on that Tuesday, and then on that Friday is when I performed at the virtual reality show with Somewhere Over the Rainbow, with completely a cappella with this big reverb, and then my original song Elsewhere. So
Wow.
that was incredible to just be kind of like, here I am.
It sounds like a very surreal experience. Oh, frozen.
Yeah, to put it mildly.
It sounds like I'm glad to hear that you had such an amazing experience first time coming in. And I guess I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So how did you feel being up on the stage so quickly? Like from like public lobby over to Fia's show?
Well, I was nervous because obviously I didn't want to disappoint, right? I was the unknown. A lot of people there had been in the open mic scene quite a long time. Like they all knew each other. I think Naku took a big risk on me, so I'm so thankful to him for taking that risk. And I felt that pressure, and I wanted to rise to the occasion. So I practiced my butt off. And I looking at the recording, I know I could have done better if I could do it again today. But I'm really proud of how it came out, and I met people after the show that loved it, and it was such a beautiful connection to like have this like full circle thing where it's like I dreamt of a day like this, not just for the year whatever that I had been in VR, but to have performing again be possible. It wasn't just this journey of being a virtual performer. It was also finding my voice again.
Wow. That's a very good way to put it. And I'm yeah. Oh. Mm. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, where do you see yourself going in the next future? Like, what are your current plans?
So, I mean, really close, really near in the future, I'm putting out my first EP,
Mhm.
and that'll be 3 songs, aiming for October, maybe November. And so that's like an official release for elsewhere on Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff, as well as 2 new original songs. And then I've been working, so those are almost ready to go. I just have some touch-ups and stuff to do on the mixes, and I want to re-record vocals, and my perfectionism's getting in the way. But yeah, so that's like super close to the future though, and eventually, as in starting in October, I'm gonna be putting out monthly music videos, because making music videos is one of my favorite things in the world. VR like has this whole camera system, or it looks like either you've got this iPad or this floating screen if you're using VR lens, or you can just like, oh, do you need a tripod? No, you just leave it in midair, and boom, you have a static shot. Or you have a drone, you can zoom the camera around. So I was able to film all my first music videos myself, which is super cool. Anyway, so yeah, monthly music videos, so I can actually have lots more music to share with people, because I have so much music I want to share with people, and it's all just about managing time, and I keep getting distracted by like, oh, I want to create my own VRChat world. And so I've been working on this venue world, because I had this idea for like this fun, intimate, like surreal kind of place that people can perform. I don't know if it'll turn out at all, but it's been really fun to learn Blender and stuff. And then always making new outfits and that type of thing, because learning avatar work has been super fun, and figuring out Unity, and even though Unity is being a huge pain in the butt this week. Yeah, that we don't need to talk about that. And then I want to actually start live streaming as well. I'm not gonna do it right away because I want to figure out a good format. But I would love to bring people along for the adventure. Like, hey, let's little mini performances, and talking about where I see the virtual music scene actually headed. Because my goals are not to be an IRL performer at all. I've a lot of people see this as kind of a jumping off point to get practice and to build confidence performing in front of other people, and all those things are amazing ways of using VR. But to me, this is endgame. Not necessarily VR chat, but virtual performance in general.
Yeah.
Whether it's the next platform or whether I move to Unreal and doing that type of thing, kind of like having my own stage. But I think the social aspect is so important to performance in general. Like, if you're just performing for a live stream with nobody there, I mean, like, there's chat or whatever, I'm not sure how different it is. Like doing it in VR chat is not that much different from doing it in a game engine or just like at your own environment. But if you're actually there with and eventually when latency is solved, which is a long road, you could jam with other musicians and start music collaborations in real time in VR, which is going to be very exciting. There's just so much potential for it, and the music videos I want to make would be impossible to do in real life. Or you'd have to rely so much on CG that it's like, why not animate it? Why not shoot it all in CG anyways, right? It's
Yeah.
easier to bring in the or the quote unquote real elements than it is to bring in all the fantastical elements into reality. Or like, I think some filmmakers and stuff love grounded stories. Love, like, they like the texture of a real brick in the New York alleyway or whatever. Like, all that stuff is great for photography because you're capturing all this real detail. And but like, real filmmaking is, I'll call it IRL filmmaking, is very much about the collection of a bunch of real things coming together to in a not artificial way, but seen through a perspective to tell a story. Where animation or this is kind of somewhere in between, right? Because you could do it in real time. We're not hand animating our conversation right now.
No.
But you not like, because everything is fake, your suspension of disbelief allows everything to be equally real. You know? This ground, this beach here is, and the water is just as real as you and I. And so I think it allows for more immersion if you can get into it, and if you can get enough nuance, whether that's just better face tracking or a clearer microphone or all those things, like those obfuscations to our humanity. Because I don't need to look like a human or like look like like an IRL human for people to connect, I hope, you know? Or like, let me put it this way. So I think the reason most people in VRChat don't main avatars that aren't in some way humanoid with like eyes or a mouth and like features you can read emotion on. Like, you don't see a lot of people wearing car avatars, even though that's just as easy, if not easier, to upload into VRChat than a human, or than a humanoid, I should say. But we like that connection. We like seeing if the person nods at you, if the person waves at you. We like some of it, but the abstraction layer allows us to get past and I think relate on almost a more universal level, especially with more cartoony characters, or the emotions are exaggerated, like you see this funny little scowl or this like, oh, you know, this big face, like that's not real. But it's emotional in the same way that we feel those emotions. I don't know. I'm rambling again.
Oh no, it's a-okay. One of the beautiful things about VR or the human condition in VR is you don't need a whole lot to feel immersed. It doesn't have to be super realistic trees or super realistic textures. Sometimes, I'm going to use Resident Evil as an example. Resident Evil 7 VR in PlayStation. On PlayStation VR is atrocious. But the experience of Resident Evil 7, like, I played it for the flat screen. It was an amazing game. But in VR, it felt so very different. And that was one of my first VR experiences, too.
Interesting.
It's a very different feel than the flat screen. So you don't need a whole lot of realistic anything to be into a thing. Or feel like you're there. Like, it's one of the great things about the brain. It fills in so much information on its own.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. I couldn't really find those words. So I appreciate you connecting the dots there.
Oh, no problem. I just find that whole aspect of VR interesting, is you don't need a whole lot. Like, one of the things I still have a really hard... Well, I understand it, but it's new. Trying to understand it, I guess, is a better put, is Phantom Sense. I know if you had a limb chopped off, that's a thing that could be there. But how people can like feel temperature and actual pressure, actual pain.
Right.
That's something I'd like to know more about, I guess. But that whole aspect of VR is someone could be so immersed that the interaction could feel real.
Yeah. Do you experience Phantom Sense?
Not really. It's like if someone puts, best way to put it is, have you ever had someone put their finger really close to your face in real life and you get that suspense?
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it, but it's only like around the face.
Okay.
At least for me anyway.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I think that's how it started out for me as well. And then slowly, I think, like the first time Phantom Sense ever caught me really off guard was smelling coffee in like this little coffee making world. And like someone was using the espresso machine, and the machine makes all the sounds, and there's the bubbling, and like it's the sonic experience, and it's such an ordinary kind of regular run of the mill place. I think especially if you have coffee often, your brain is really keyed into what that smells like. And it's almost like that same way that it's anticipating someone about to touch your face. Your face tenses up a little bit. I think the brain's almost like, oh, get ready for coffee smell. And even the suggestion of getting ready for coffee smell is like preparing your brain like, oh, are you smelling it yet? Okay, and you're hypersensitive to it. And maybe it's just like, what you had for dinner or whatever, kind of confusing your brain. Like, you're like, is that coffee? It smells like, and then you get the very, very literal suggestion of, oh, I'm holding a cup of coffee and the liquid moves when I move the thing, and my hand is around a controller, which I can kind of lose sense of after a while if you're just holding on to a cup. Controller could feel like the handle of a mug. And you look and you're distracted, you're talking to someone, and there's been all this noise and nice ambience. And like, I smell coffee.
That's an interesting one. Phantom smell. Do you get it a lot? Or is there certain things that you get it?
No, it's pretty rare. Coffee will do it. I think pretend s'mores or marshmallows or something has done it once. Burning incense. Those little sticks with the forget where they're from. That worked on me once. And I'm like, whoa. Because I hadn't smelled that in a long time. But my brain was like, it triggered the memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
But I don't get phantom pain or any of that.
I know a few people that have phantom pain, and the way they described it to me is it feels like if you stick your arm through them, it feels like you're actually sticking your arm through them. Or if you were to shoot them, feels like they're being shot. Same with stabbed or burned. And I just don't know how the brain can fill in that much information by just a visual cue. That's just one of the things I think is amazing.
Right.
It's just that.
Oh, it's so fascinating. Imagine how strong people's immersion is going to get when we all have, better haptics and way clearer visuals, and or just like as the technology and the software improves, we're getting closer and closer to this being
reality.
Just another reality.
Yeah, it seems in terms of like this being an alternate reality with like some form of full dive, or maybe it's gamer style, you're in some large suspended rig with haptics. It seems like that is not too far off from where we are now, having this be a possible alternate place to live.
Yeah.
There's even people working here now making money, not just streamers, but like there's multiple clubs in here that sell merch. and they make money that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
That side of it is really interesting. And I love that artists get to sell to other artists and other creators, and programmers are selling their tools to world builders and avatar creators, like creating shaders or scripts that do cool things. And that to me is one of the coolest parts of like, okay, it's not just like people are actually making a living making avatars for people, or they made a base and it blew up on Booth, and now thousands and thousands of people are running around with your 3D character, and they're people are making a living making clothes for that one base. So that's how much, like, we're people think, oh, metaverse, there's gonna be Nike making digital Nikes. They're like, no one wants that. Okay, no one wants the big brands. People want good clothing, regardless of who it's made by. People want cool ways to express themselves. Who's the latest avatar creator that's like, how can I, like, why do people wear specific avatars? Some people don't care at all. Right? Some people are like, well, I kind of just want to look like myself in real life because that's how I'm comfortable, and that's totally fine. You don't have to express yourself through your avatar. But if you want to, the ability to express is so far beyond what you can do with IRL fashion.
Mm.
And it's cheap. It's way cheaper to buy VR clothing. Like, you don't know, like, even if you can't afford the accessories or whatever, or like to buy your own base, you can do VROI, which is free, or you can get, like, there's tons of people that upload free avatars, and or heck, just learn how to make clothing yourself, and suddenly you just need a laptop, and suddenly you could start selling clothing to people and start paying rent or whatever if you're good at it.
Those things are all really amazing, and I can't wait to see what else VR metaverses in general have in nature. And to your comment, no one wants the big brands. If people did, then Horizon Worlds would have been a lot bigger than it is. Name brands, big celebrities, everyone's there, but in the end, they'd rather be here or Neos or Chill Out than whatever that is.
Ultimately, everyone's here for a different reason, but we are here to connect with other people. Looking at worlds is like going world hopping alone can be fun as well, or just making stuff. But I think at the end of the day, we want to find like-minded people, or something to share our passion, or have great late night conversations, share time together, and there's just way less barriers to do that here than any other quote unquote metaverse platform has. VRChat doesn't try to sell you things while you're just trying to chat with your friends. You're like, I don't know, like their whole thing where like, oh, they take 65% of any transaction on their platform. It's like, well, that's a horrible cut, by the way. Wow, fuck you, Facebook. I'm sorry. Fuck you. That's just mean. That's greedy. Like, Steam was complaining, or was it Epic that was complaining? App Store takes 30%, where almost every other online store takes 20 or less. So that's been a lawsuit for the last year, 2 years, or whatever. Over 50% is just criminal.
Yeah.
These are people that are giving value to your platform. Why are you taking that from them? From the people who actually make your platform worth being on. Like, VRChat lives and dies by its virtual by its community contributions. If there weren't any good worlds, or weren't any good public avatars, it would die. It would die immediately. Because they're like, oh, there's people, but it's just all these like optimized boxes, or I'm sorry, whoever made the optimized boxes. um, like we need something to interact with. We need a place to hang and chat. Like, would this be as fun if we weren't on like this cool beach? Like, if we were just in like a conference room or a, God forbid, like another Zoom call. I don't think this would be as natural of a conversation, or meeting cool people would just not feel the same. Everyone hates Zoom calls.
Makes me feel really bad for the kids who did school in Zoom calls. Must have been a horrifying experience during COVID. Or not horrifying, but sad. Like, I used to go talk with friends and be in the cafeteria, and now I get to look at a box.
Like, no wonder people just kept their video off, because it's like, it's so dehumanizing to just like have everyone. That's not how we interact. Like, if we're talking to someone, you don't need to be like, unmute. Oh, sorry. Like I don't even want to talk about that. It's just so gross. I hate that way of. And is it better than a phone call? Probably, I guess, because you could see people's facial expressions. Some people argue phone calls are more natural because there's not this forced like looking at the camera or looking at yourself at the same time, looking at blah blah blah. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well,
this is great.
I do see there are some projects like VRC Academy. It's a place where you can learn Japanese. From what I hear.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if we ever have, God forbid, another COVID event of sorts, hopefully they utilize VR instead, because at least that way you have some semblance of normal social interactions between people versus the box.
Totally. I think so.
Well,
I think learning here in VR would be really fun. Like, I would love one day to like be able to see people teaching piano lessons, where like you spawn the piano, you line up your IRL like the piano teachers and the students' keyboard or whatever piano, you align them, and then suddenly like you can like teach someone. I don't know, like the teaching opportunities or possibilities, I should say, in VR are endless. We have no idea what's gonna be possible.
There is. I do remember reading last year. There was a group of people. I think there were a bunch of programmers and people who do VR stuff, who now are going around bringing Quest headsets to schools, and then they basically showcase what you can do with a headset. Like, I think it was science lessons they were doing, and they taught a science class with a VR headset, which is the coolest thing I've ever seen, because like science, engineering, and history classes could be so much more engaging here. There was one world I world hopped to, which is done by a history teacher, and you get to the teacher put like a little plaque you could read, and it was Greece, or a remake of Greece, here in VRChat, and it was for a class, and apparently they took their students right through Greece.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Like, if you're learning about history or architecture or something, instead of just talking about it or showing a picture up on a whiteboard or, projector, it's like, here, you want to see how big the Eiffel Tower is? Here it is. Okay, now we're gonna see this. Like, it's what do the inside of the pyramids look like? We're not just gonna show you this little textbook diagram. We're gonna welcome you into the pyramid, and people can walk through it and get up close to the hieroglyphics, and be there without having the burden of figuring out how to get, which is impossible in literally 99.99999 cases. Like, oh, let's take our whole entire class to Egypt. Like, that's not gonna happen.
But
But you get to have probably 50% of the value of visiting a real place without actually leaving your house.
Yeah. That is, I've also remember seeing you saying traveling, mentioning that there's a few groups like Japan tours that will give you the whole tour and travel experience, and being able to learn a different culture through
Oh,
that
that's
lens
cool.
from people who live there is another really cool aspect of things I've
Right.
seen people do here. It's fascinating as shit. Oop, come on, Pin.
I had no idea.
Yeah, there's a small group, maybe not small at this point, but they're Japan tours, and they give you a little show, and they give you a tour of like Japan. There's a world called Japan Street, for example. That's
Oh,
a
right.
remake of a city, and you can
Like
go
a
there.
Kyoto sort of area?
Yeah, something like that. I think I don't remember which city it is exactly. Unfortunately, that's a me not
Okay.
remembering problem. But it is a remake of a city in real life, and you can go into shops, and you can go into the museum, you can go to the school and the train station. There's a few apartment buildings you can enter. It's really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very optimistic about the possibilities with VR. I'm not excited about, the people that are attracted to um this whole world. Like, I think not always is the like, you get your Web3, you get your crypto. I have very strong opinions on that world. I think artificial scarcity, like digital artificial scarcity, it's just fucking stupid. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Like, okay, physical objects have real scarcity amounts, right? A book is only printed so many times, or a pillow is only sewn so many times. It has a quantity, right? It has resources that go into it, but digital assets are all information and are technically infinite. So if people get stuck on, oh, well, something's value is only based on its quantity. And that's just not true for art. You know? It's true in some way. Like, if an artisan crafts a beautiful chair, we value that more than an IKEA chair. Because there's a billion IKEA chairs, and they're not unique, and there's really no love put. Well, I'm sure the original designer put love into it, but it's a commodity rather than a piece of art. Where this craftsman chair is kind of a piece of art, or most people would probably consider it art, and it's all about that intention. And some people only see, I think, the quantity aspect affecting it. So they see like this. I mean, we're going back to like pirating music days, or not LimeWire. What's the other one?
Frostwire,
The
LimeWire,
no, the
Pirate Bay.
Pirate Bay. Yeah, what was the music sharing one? The with the cat with the headphones.
I don't remember. I only remember the few, and I didn't use them because funny files and stealing and corrupted files
No,
and
right.
stuff.
It like there's a great way to get a virus on your computer. A lot of people got into lost or sued by these record companies for downloading music and stuff. The record companies were really scared of digital and the internet changing the value of music because they couldn't control the quantity anymore. And Apple swooped in with a more convenient solution to just, oh, we'll pay 99 cents per song, and you're not going to get a virus on your computer if you download it. And yeah, it's not free anymore, like pirating, but this reliability and the convenience and having it all in one place worked for a lot of people, and it was really easy to upload on your iPod or whatever. So they saved the record industry. temporarily. You know, they figured out a way to still make money. The problem is the underlying change didn't go anywhere. Songs are still data, or digital songs are just data. So my theory is that songs themselves don't actually have, you can't put a literal price tag on it. I think everyone values a song differently. Like your favorite artist, that's worth paying perhaps hundreds, or Taylor Swift's case, thousands of dollars for some people. That music means everything. That, like, people will spend many hours of their time working to pay for that music. So the songs aren't 99 cents. They're way more than that. Or if you don't like the songs or you don't like the artists at all, they're worthless to you. That's the true worth of digital art. What I think gives something that value is, or how much you connect with it. How good is it? Or how well was this song executed? How well did it communicate something to you personally? And where do you find that value in it? It's not just the physical object that we charge people to experience the song, right? That's what you were really buying when you bought CDs or vinyl or tape or any of these other formats. You were paying for the privilege of accessing that song whenever you wanted. Now, when you buy a vinyl, people don't buy it for the same reason. People buy a vinyl because they're like, oh, I love that artist. I want to have the artwork bigger. And I want the liner notes. I want to see like this physical lyric sheet where I can read along while I'm listening to the song. And I want to listen on this little turntable that I bought because maybe my dad used to be a DJ. Or maybe, I found this at a used store or whatever. Like, and suddenly you're not looking at your phone. You're not looking at the computer, which could, get lost in Twitter. You get lost in all these fun Discord conversations. You're just like, oh, I'm just listening to this music, and that's really cool. Like, if that music meant that you wanted to give it your entire focus, to actually like go through the absolute hassle of like, oh, let's get this piece of plastic out, listen to 5 songs, put the needle on, make sure that's balanced, turn on the speakers, or plug in my headphones. It's it's such a pain. So it's got to be worth it for people to actually do that. And so you're paying not for the privilege to listen to it, but for the experience or the physical object that embodies what you love about that music. And that is such a funny change. I don't know if I have the answer for like, okay, so how do artists actually make money when some people can listen to their music for free and only wealthy people can afford to go on tour because touring is unbelievably prohibitively expensive. Like, oh, you want merch? Well, you're going to have to create the merch, right? You're going to have capital to print a bunch of t-shirts and caps and bottles and all this stuff. Like, is that really what everyone has to do to make a living? The other choice, or one of the other choices, is be sponsored and get ads to pay for your time as a musician or artist. I'll speak as a musician because I don't know the art world as well. And so like, let's say you're a YouTuber, right? Or you're a Twitch streamer. You have your viewers either like view or some will click on or whatever. Like, they'll be exposed to advertisements or endorsed product reviews and that type of thing. And that's the other way that you can make a living. But there's this kind of dark undertone to like, it's not just like selling yourself out. and I don't fault anyone for taking sponsors, by the way, at all. Because like, come on, like being able to make videos for a living is the coolest thing ever. But we have to be like also with that power to like, if you have a platform, you need to vet who you're suggesting. Your viewers are who you're selling, or who you're kind of, like they're who you're making your money off of, and not because they're actually contributing money intentionally to you, but because you're selling their eyes to a company who wants people that are interested in something they might have in common. So it's delicate.
It is very delicate.
If you're selling like a VPN or something, please vet the VPN company. Don't just like, hey, VPNs are cool, right? Yeah, they're probably paying you good money, but please research. Please check. Like, don't just like endorse something that you don't have full knowledge of before you do that.
In a sense, you're staking your reputation on a company, even if they're paying you money and there's an exchange of sorts. People's experience with that product you suggested in the end falls on you. It's like the person who brought you in via show. What if when he brought you in, you didn't do well? And that would be on him. It would be his reputation. The product you provide is the exact same thing. If you provide a VPN that doesn't do its job, well, then it is on the VPN, but it's also on you because you suggested it to them.
Right. Where that's interesting you bring up like suggestions and stuff from a friend too. With parasocial relationships and streamers and stuff, if a lot of people don't realize that the real power that they have. They say, hey, get a good night's sleep, drink water. And it's coming from someone they really trust and they watch all the time and love their content and like, or their art. Like they're like, oh my gosh, I love this person, even if you haven't met them before. You could be a really positive impact, or you could potentially be a really negative impact. It's not a fair thing. Like, why should...
I don't do that. I don't have a positive impact. I'm just a screwball.
Raptor, you are a very positive impact. Raptor, you're a really nice person. A little wacky like me, but you're a positive person.
Yeah, we're all trolls in our own bridges. Just amounts on how much you want to fucking tear the bridge down. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Star. Keep going. My bad.
Oh, good. No, I take myself way too seriously. I'm working on that.
It's okay.
Being able to laugh is good.
Hey, Star, you're young. Star, you're young. You got a whole road in front of you. From experience of somebody that has, take it day by day and enjoy it like it's your last day. You'll go as far as you want it to be. Do what you want, like Line says. You have your friends that'll back you for who you are, and they don't care where you go. They just want to enjoy your company. That's pretty much what you need. Even if we all screwy sometimes, you gotta have that little screwball zone, and sometimes you gotta have that fun, and you gotta have that seriousness. But what you're throwing out and have been talking about, get it off my lap, it's driving me nuts. Sorry about that. You're correct in all different directions, in every direction. And through what I've seen and what I've heard from you, you're gonna go a long ways. Don't have anybody tell you different.
Oh,
shoot for
that's
that
very
star.
kind of you to say.
You got that name of star in your eyes, and then in your name. Take your time. You'll get there. Just like me and Line. We didn't think that we'd ever go anywhere, and look at us now. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things that all you got to do is put yourself out there, that little bitty effort, And guess what? Nobody can take it away from you.
Mm.
I can't, mine can't, friends can't, because you're doing it. If they think it's easy, they're out of their freaking mind. It's a lot to make those steps, honestly.
Mm.
And if you take too many steps, you might trip over them, and then guess what? You just get back up and go, ha, I win, because nobody's going to take it away from you. You are the only one that makes your mistakes, and you're the only one who can correct you. Like I tell everybody in VR, if it came with a handbook, we'd all have one. Nothing is.
Mm. Well, as you do say a lot, you can't walk a road for somebody. Your road is your own.
No, that's right. Very much so. And I hope your road, don't get me wrong, Star's going to have holes in it. But guess what?
I'm counting on it.
Everybody can walk around. Or step over. That's on how big you want to make it. But good luck.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in what you're doing. Really caught my eye on listening stuff. Hopefully sometime down the road, get to listen. I'm a person that loves. I can't sing for shit. I tell everybody I sound like a flat tire with all the air up above, but it just makes all that weird noise. But hopefully me and Line sometime, or just one of us, who cares, we can actually go to your website and listen to you. I love the sound of a piano. I love the sound of an electric guitar. I like instruments. No matter what it is, you play it the way you want, and you find that line that you play. It's like you ever seen the anime called the piano in the forest?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Get a chance, watch it. There's 2 parts to it. 2 season parts. It deals with a kid. I'll give you a general outline. Plays a piano in forest, but nobody else can play it but him. He can actually get it to sing. No lessons, just taught himself. And a teacher teaches him how, because he had to push a teacher, famous pianist, put it in the forest to bury it because his wife got into a car accident. She passed away. That's where he put the piano. The kid found it, started playing with it. Young kid, and it goes through and on and on and on, and he ends up doing stuff with a piano that should not be done with a piano. Done in Japan's scenery, they have when you have those piano contests, they got to have some blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff, and it's great. It's something I keep going back to every once in a while just to listen to it. I don't even have to watch it because I know what goes. It's just the idea of a kid playing a piano that nobody can play. Even a professional pianist could not get it played. And this kid gets onto it and makes it talk like it should talk. Unreal.
No,
And this teacher that put it in there teaches him how to play a true piano. And then down the road, the piano catches a fire. And it's emotional, but it's unique how down the road in the second scene and the second half of it, where this kid is doing stuff that blows your mind. It'd be the same thing with you, Star. You'd be go with what you feel comfortable.
Wait till you hear my music before you say that.
Yeah, but it don't matter, because see, you have one thing on me. Remember this. I cannot play. You have, no matter how, if you can get it even to talk a little bit, it's more than what I can't, and I can't judge you for what you can do because you're doing something I wished I could. I got too big of hands to even play electric guitar. People tell me that's horse shit. Try it. Well, I've tried it, but it takes
you could try bass.
patience. I've had that too, but I don't like bass. I want something that's gonna sing.
Yeah. That's fair.
I want something that's and everything else like this. Here's a good question. I ask this from everything. What string instrument you can play, but you cannot play a sad song on it?
Ukulele. That's not true. A lot of melancholy ukulele songs. I don't know.
The banjo. You can't play a sad song on a banjo. I've never seen it, and if somebody can prove me wrong, I'll eat crow. Because I asked somebody in my school, there was a teacher that could really make a banjo sing. And I asked him, "Can you play a sad song?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Get out of my class." There's the door. That's all I got at him. Get out of my class.
It's just
It's hard. It's the way it makes it plays and the way the pitch it's
It's a
impossible.
very bright sound.
You got
Well,
it.
now you're just challenging people. I feel like, including myself, maybe I should
Somebody
figure out how to
probably
write.
prove me wrong. We'll get a thing going. Yeah, I could do it. Just listen. But I'd love to listen to you play, Star. I really do. Just anything
I
you
hope you
want.
enjoy what you check out.
Oh, I would, because you're doing something I can't do. No matter what you play. I listen to people. Sometimes I've heard people go into Black Hat, get up on stage and start playing the piano or guitar.
Yeah.
And I'll stop what I'm doing and shooting the shit with some friend and everything disappear. And they go, "Where are you going?" "I'll be back." And I'm listening. You can tell a fake player from a real player.
Yep, you can.
Yes, you can.
I don't even know how, but it's
on a
it's so
guitar,
obvious.
On a guitar is when you run your fingers down the strings, you can hear fingers running across.
I think it's more complicated than that.
Yes, it probably is. But when a fake one is, they try to get that sound taken out when they actually play. They pull that weird sound and you're sliding your fingers down the guitar.
So, some people do that unintentionally. Like some professional players just are so good at avoiding the fret sounds. You don't hear any of it. But
You don't hear it, but you can.
But I think that's an interesting topic to talk about. It's like, why can you tell if something's pre-recorded or being played live, and how much of a difference does that actually make? Like, why? And I've seen this. Like, some people are fine if people just play music through their mic. Some people get annoyed. But even if you don't know the songs, you can always tell that it's just like they're not performing that music. You know, it's like that's a pre-recorded song, and that almost has zero value here in VRChat. But if someone's playing like in a DJ like in a club, and everyone's there and they're supposed to be listening to a DJ playing music, obviously that's a little harder to tell if they've pre-recorded a set with transitions and all that, and if they're actually doing it live, especially with the lag. Like if they're changing the cutoff of a specific, riser or whatever with their knobs, it won't always line up with VRCDN. There's the 5 second delay or whatever. But it's way more obvious when like live performers, you could just tell. And it's even if they're really good, like if they're perfectly on pitch and if their rhythm is just amazing, there's that magic energy that even makes its way through all the VRChat compression and all the weird delay and the avatar, imperfections, or your tracker glitches out, and you can still tell that it's a real player. That's so cool.
That is very cool, and that is an interesting point to bring, that both of you bring up, is being able to tell if someone's faking it. It is. I can't place my finger on it, but I'm sure you can better than I could on what that is.
I think it's authenticity in a way that we are so keyed into. Like what are humans like? We're good at gauging a pre-recorded thing that, like, we can even tell just watching a video with no context if the person seems like they're reading off a script or if they're just speaking off the top of their head. I don't know. our brains are pretty cool.
Indeed, brains are very cool. It is quite weird how much it can pick up in a very short period of time, whether it's phantom sense, being able to tell if a musician's fake or not, or the subtle cues of your
Yep.
environment.
Yeah.
Well, with that note,
Yeah.
I do appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, Star. Is there anything you'd like to plug out there for the ether? Where can they find you?
Yes. My YouTube channel is where I post all my music videos. Starheart VR, and I'm gonna start uploading monthly music videos very soon. Hopefully you enjoy them. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky, and I have a link tree in all my social media. Occasionally post to Instagram as well for random photos, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank
Had a
you.
great
we
time
appreciate you
chatting
being-
with everyone.
Yeah, this is awesome.
And on that note, folks, no matter what it is, if you can play a sad song on a banjo, I want to hear it. If it is, just don't tell Mom because she wouldn't believe me anyhow. You have a good one, and thank you again, Star. We'll talk to you folks later.